Thank you, Presiding Officer. What is the Welsh Government's assessment of the resilience of the primary care sector in Wales?
Llywydd, resilience is achieved through diversification of the workforce, making maximum use of all clinically qualified staff, and strong collaboration and integration between all aspects of primary care, using an accelerated cluster model in order to do so.
Thank you for that response, First Minister. It does not take a genius to conclude that primary care is far from resilient. I, like most members, have been overwhelmed with letters from GPs expressing dismay at the breakdown in negotiations around the GMS contract. Many indicated that they are considering leaving general practice. GPs are the backbone of our NHS, yet they have been underfunded, undervalued, and overworked for decades. Now, with backlogs in secondary care, putting additional pressure to primary care, we are at a crisis point. GPs are leaving the profession in droves. As workloads and underfunding takes its toll, over the last 10 years, we have seen a 93,000 increase in patients, but at the same time, a loss of 84 surgeries and over a fifth fewer GPs. General practice now only accounts for around 7% of NHS funding. First Minister, will you pledge to save our surgeries? Will you commit to a fully funded workforce plan that retains existing GPs at the same time as training sufficient new GPs to meet demand? Thank you.
Well, Llywydd, let me just put a few facts on the record here. We have a system in which absolutely month after month we assess the state of pressure in our primary care services. The latest figures show that 86% of GP practices report the lowest level of escalation. So while it is absolutely true that the system is under huge pressure of demand and of numbers, I completely accept that. The idea that it is somehow in a crisis is to exaggerate and I think to underplay the resilience of the system itself. The reason that there are no current discussions is because GPC Wales paused contract negotiations. Not because the Welsh Government paused them, GPC Wales paused those negotiations. There'd already been 5 meetings with GPC Wales, and I must say, again this afternoon, and to them, we are at the limit of the finance available to us in what has been put on the table already in those negotiations. And the member says to me, GPs are leaving the service in droves. Let me quote to him the latest figures that were published on this matter. In the last 12 months, despite all the financial difficulties that we face, there was a 4% growth in headcount of GPs in Wales, not leaving in droves, a 4% growth in headcount and a 1% growth in FTEs as well. Amongst trainee GPs, headcount and FTEs up by 3.2%, and amongst wider primary care practice staff, the headcount is up by 2.9% and full-time equivalents are up by 2.8%. So on every single measure, numbers are growing, not falling, and certainly do not bear out any suggestion that people are somehow leaving the service in droves.